She's being good right now. It's not going to happen though. All right.
You got a big old chance in right now, dude.
I do, but we're live, bro.
All right.
Welcome to the Davis Mattek Evan Silva Slurv chat. It's been a minute. It's been a minute, Evan. How excited are you to talk football with your favorite fantasy football analyst?
Very, very excited, man. Hopefully you can turn in a good show, you know.
I will do my best. I will say right now, I probably know more about the Cowboys' fifth string running back situation
Right.
than I do of week one for sure.
Yeah, yeah. The fellow by the name of Darius Jackson.
Oh yeah, all in, all in, all in, all in. Yeah. Are you how the first 2 days of preseason go for you? I got killed. Like I'm distraught, man. I lost. I'm like so upset.
I got killed the first night. Had no Aldrick Robinson,
Yep.
and but last night I was in the green, but not enough to make up for the first night, and I would have won the $27 GPP if Connor Hamlet, the Browns' backup tight end, if his 25-yard touchdown would have counted from Josh McCown, but Josh McCown put his foot over the line of scrimmage, and the touchdown was reversed. So hurting me right now.
That's brutal, man. I remember Connor Hamlet from the first year I played college football daily fantasy. He was the goat.
Didn't he play like Washington State or something?
Oregon State.
Oregon State.
He played with Sean Mannion, who is going to play tonight.
Wow, man, that's some deep knowledge. Well, I was on him because I knew that Barnage wasn't going to play a lot. Seth DeValve was hurt, and Connor Hamlet apparently has been catching a bunch of touchdowns in practice. He's 6'8", and I knew he'd get to play with McCown. You know, like I knew he'd get to play with a solid quarterback. So I pretty much went all in on him. He was super low owned. He ended up with a 0. But you know, it would have been like 9 points if he would have caught if that touchdown would have counted. So killing me.
I know it's a live show and it's before lock and we keep it close to our vest. Do you want to give me? I'll give one preseason player. You want to give one
Okay.
too?
Yeah, I definitely try to stay close to the vest with preseason plays. But yeah, go ahead.
100%.
You give one and I'll give one.
Okay, I'm gonna give Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Lucky Whitehead. I think he's gonna play. I mean, I don't think Romo will play at all. So I think that he will get run in the first half with Dak Prescott. And if you've seen any pictures of this dude at training camp, he like rocked up over the offseason. He's good to go. And so either him or Andy Jones is gonna have like a big game. And I just think Whitehead's probably a little bit better.
Yeah, Andy Jones is a guy I'm on a little bit, and I understand the reasoning behind Lucky Whitehead for sure. I'm going to go with the quarterback position is tough in preseason DFS tonight. Nobody's really talking about Scott Tolzien, and I think that he could be a solid play. Scott Tolzien, maybe stack him up with Quan Bray, the Colts' fourth receiver.
Yeah, there you go. I like Boyce a little bit, Josh Boyce a little
Okay.
bit for the Colts. There's 10 wide receivers to pick from. I'm excited to watch Boykin tonight. I just love to watch him in college.
Yeah, he went undrafted, man. What's that all about? Can you explain that? I think some teams wanted to see him work out at wide receiver before the draft, but he refused at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he wants to be a quarterback, and I mean I can't blame him. Pryor wanted to be a quarterback, and he tried it, and he flamed out, and now there's a good chance he's going to be the second Browns wide receiver. I have him in some NFL 10s, Terrell Pryor. Like,
Nice.
I can't deny it, man. We're live on the air right now. I think the Bills offense or the Browns offense could be good. I think there's like a non-zero chance they're like top 10 offense in football.
I mean, like I can see them being exciting for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna have
Yeah.
some really bad games, but I think they're gonna be kind of like the
Yeah.
Jaguars last year.
Well, they have play. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. They have playmakers, man. They got Duke Johnson. They got Corey Coleman, who I mean, I think he's the GOAT.
Yes, yeah, I'm
they-
very glad you're on board.
Gary Barnkowski. Josh Gordon will be back in week 5. Terrell Pryor. They have. I mean, Rashard Higgins looks like he could be a good possession receiver
Higgins
for
is a
them.
player. Yeah.
Yeah. They got Baby Hawk, Andrew Hawkins.
Well, that's no. Yeah, he's like if that's like your sixth guy, you're probably pretty good.
I mean, he's a slot receiver. If slot receivers just catch balls and earn some yards after the catch and keep the chains moving, they're doing their job.
It all just comes down to if RG3 can be anything like rookie or RG3 or not. And I don't know. I mean, Hugh Jackson's a really good coach, so you would think he would put his guys in position to succeed.
Yeah, and they have a pretty good offensive line. I mean, they got Joe Thomas. They used a first-round pick on Cam Irving. Their guards are good, Joel Bitonio and John Greco. They got a competition at right tackle, but I mean, their offensive line should be above average. I think Pro Football Focus rated them with like a top 10, maybe even top 5 offensive line entering the season.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with that. I'm doing this this franchise draft on this poker forum that I do, where you draft 26 players and you take them for your salary this year, and a bunch of their linemen are gone already in that draft. So I think that would be we're through like 8 rounds, I think. So that's a pretty good indication of their value because most of these dudes are pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Who would be your first pick in that format? Like contract included, most valuable player in the NFL?
Like most valuable player in fantasy?
No, just for like NFL terms. If you include how much money he's signed for, the best and most valuable player, like the combination of those two.
So I'm looking at actual NFL contracts?
Yes, yeah. Just assume if a guy's not on a rookie deal, he's expensive. Which is so if they've been in the league for more than 4 years, they're probably expensive if they're good. Like J.J. Watt, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, like these guys they're making like $60 million a year.
I mean, it would be a quarterback, right?
Mine was still Cam because none of the like elite quarterbacks are on rookie deals anymore.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Cam, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, I think would be the 3 people you're looking at.
Wilson went first in the draft that I did, and I mean all of Wilson's stats are nuts. Like I think that all of the Seahawks players in like seasonal drafts, I think there's a chance they're all undervalued. Like and they all have pretty good price tags, but if they let Wilson throw 600 times, like they could score, I don't know, 65 offensive touchdowns or something crazy. Like that's totally possible.
Yeah, where are you on Thomas Rawls? Because he seems like he's in a great spot right now. Just the game flow is going to be, and they're going to be so efficient offensively with great game flow. And our strength of schedule analyst Warren Sharp rated them with one of the easiest 5 schedules in football. Where are you with Thomas Rawls?
You know that I will never shy away from a hot take. Thomas Rawls is kind of my pick to be like the league-winning guy, like the David Johnson from last year. So say he doesn't get hurt, say he doesn't get this injury, and he's just good to go for camp, and he'd been there since day one. I think he'd be a first-round pick. Like I think he would be going right where Charles is going, right where Devontae Freeman is going, because he was better than Freeman last year per game, like per touch. He wasn't even close, really. And he plays for a way better offense. And what everyone who like doesn't want to be on him says is like, oh, well, they drafted Procise, they drafted Collins. But I think they view Procise kind of how like they viewed Percy Harvin. Like I think they're going to use him like that. He's going to play third downs. He's going to split out. They're going to have both of them on the field at the same time. So I think Rawls, like if he's good to go and he's already off the pup, I think you're looking at like 250 carries. And if he does that, I mean, he's going to goat it.
Oh yeah, if he gets 250 carries, I mean, he's going to score 10 touchdowns at least. Yeah, I can't wait to. I'm thinking about using a Seahawks team stack at home in Week 1 against Miami. I just think they're going to destroy the Dolphins in Seattle. The Dolphins' pass defense looks like it's going to be pathetic.
Who do they even have left at corner? I honestly don't know.
Their number 1 is Byron Maxwell.
Oh, that'll work.
And their number 2 is Tony Lippett, converted wide receiver from Michigan State, who's just been getting torched in practice.
I wanted him to stay at wide receiver. I don't know like how much college film you have time to watch, but I like that. He was like my number 12 wide receiver in this class before he changed. Like I kind of liked him.
Yeah, I think Matt Harmon liked him too. And they also have 2 box safeties at safety. I mean, they don't really have a true center field safety. They have Issa Abdul Qudus, who's like a special teamer, strong safety, and Rashad Jones, who's a strong safety. So they're going to have a lot. And then their linebackers are terrible. Like Kiko Alonso is their starting middle linebacker. I mean, they're in trouble, dude. They're just going to get torched throughout the back seven.
So do you give Kiko any chance of bouncing back and being good?
I mean, I'm going to bet against him, every single week until he shows me that he's. Yeah.
I mean, there's some corner who's always gotten the best of me, and I can't remember his name right now. It might be for a while I remember targeting Delvin Breaux. Mm-hmm. Like I've like never gotten the matchups with him right. It's like you've played MLB Daily Fantasy. There's just some pitchers like you stack against them, they're perfect. You let it go and they just get shelled. Like Delvin Breaux is that guy for me.
Yeah, that's why I can't play MLB DFS because I'm a donator. I'm a donator in MLB DFS.
I mean, it's the worst. I'm so excited to get NFL back. Like, it is the best daily fantasy. Daily fantasy is a perfect format for NFL because in seasonal, like, I still play seasonal. I still enjoy seasonal. But, I mean, the injuries just, they kill you to such a significant degree. And with DFS, like, you kind of almost like when a guy misses a week with an ankle sprain because it means you get a free square for cash games.
Yeah, definitely. So can we interact with the chat a little bit here?
Yeah. What do we got in here? Someone's asking us if we trust RG3. That's a loaded question.
I mean, I think we've seen some quarterbacks with issues be propped up by their supporting cast, and I think that's what you're hoping for with RG3. I think ultimately the Browns are going to be pretty conservative with him. At least to begin the season. I mean, he showed us a little bit of what his issues are last night. He made a great play and then he made some bad plays. Fumbling handoffs, throwing interceptions, hitting Terrell Pryor for a 50-yard bomb.
Pryor the GOAT.
So he's a rehab project. The Browns know that, and can he be propped up by his supporting cast? I mean, Andy Dalton is like I think a fringe NFL starter, maybe a little bit better, but when his supporting cast has been healthy, he's been like a top 5 fantasy quarterback, So that's kind of where I am with RG3. You just hope that the supporting cast, which looks pretty good, can add to his confidence and make plays for him when he gets the ball to his playmakers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What are you doing with Le'Veon now? Have you taken him since the suspension in any drafts?
No. I mean, people are still taking him. The latest I've seen him go, I guess I saw him go mid-third in one expert draft.
Sure.
But in every other draft that I've done, he goes in the second round. And I mean, I can't justify myself using a second-round pick on a guy who right now it looks like strong likelihood he's going to be suspended for 4 games. That's too. I can't take him over Alshon. I can't take him over Jordy. I can't take him over. I mean, I don't know. For me, he's like a 3rd or 4th rounder, and he never goes there.
No, you're never someone else is always going to like him more than you.
Yeah. I mean, I seriously still see him go in the 1st round, and I can't draft him there, so I never get him.
I mean, how can you take 12 games of Le'Veon over Ezekiel Elliott? Even Devonta Freeman, who I don't even like. I don't have Freeman at all, but I would take him over Le'Veon now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a debate that he goes. I mean, the latest I see him go in normal drafts is right around that range where you could get Jamal Charles or Devonta Freeman. If you're just looking at running backs, Jamal Charles, Devonta Freeman, Mark Ingram, and it's usually Le'Veon who goes before those guys.
Yeah, that's nuts to me. You have we both hate this guy, Kobe Fleener. The chat wants to know where we're at on him in seasonal leagues. I know we both really don't like this guy just as a player. Yeah. But he kind of landed in like the GOAT spot for him. Yeah, like he's you don't even have to be good. Like Ben Watson was a tight end 1 last year.
Yeah, he was the tight end 8 last year.
Yeah, like Fleener.
caught like 70 balls, led all tight ends in red zone targets. I mean, for me, so I don't know if you can expect like great consistency from Kobe Fleener, especially in an offense that has so many weapons. I mean, they added Michael Thomas, they got Mark Ingram, Willie Snead definitely isn't going away. Brandon Cooks looks like a player that will continue to ascend. So I don't know if on a week-to-week basis he's going to be super consistent, but I think at the end of the year, if he stays healthy, and Kobe Fleener, for all of his faults, he's always stayed healthy.
Yeah, he has.
And he's also
Allen who got hurt.
And he's been a high finisher among tight ends too. I mean, he was the tight end 6 in 2014. And whenever Dwayne Allen would get hurt, Kobe Fleener was like a top 5 DFS play in daily fantasy. So I have Kobe Fleener as the tight end 5 right now in season long.
So depressed that this Ladarius Green thing is happening. This headaches thing. This is terrible because Sammy Coates is not good. He would have been like the second guy.
He could have been. Man.
It's really brutal. I'm like waiting for Eifert to come back though. Eifert's like the GOAT DFS guy because people don't like to take him because of Andy Dalton, but he's like baby Gronk.
And plus, they lost so many targets and replaced him with a rookie and Brandon LaFell. So Eifert was going to be in a great spot. I still think he is, and he goes super late now in drafts. I mean, for me, he would have been maybe like a 5th round pick. If he was 100% healthy, but now he goes like 8th round. So if he only misses, 1 or 2 games, and his target should rise, and he's put on this earth to high point touchdown catches.
Yeah, no doubt.
I like him where you can get him in drafts, and then you could get like Antonio Gates in the 10th round, to kind of hold you over until Tyler Eifert is healthy. Where are you at with Gates, man? There's a strong narrative on him this year. Do you know the narrative?
The narrative, I believe it. But so here's the thing. I would bet anything, and if a book will let me do this, I will bet on him breaking the touchdown record this year. What is it? He needs 8. He needs 8 more, right?
8, yeah.
So he might catch that 8th touchdown and just walk out the end zone, out of the stadium to his car, and go drive back to his beautiful home in San Diego. Like there's because the Chargers aren't going to be good. The Chargers are going to finish last in that division, and I mean Rivers said like we're getting Gates this record, and so I think you can just when you fill in your projections for Gates, you just write in 8. Like he's going to get it.
Well, if he scores 8 touchdowns, like he's a lock to finish as a top 10 fantasy tight end. And I mean, I'm gonna probably be on him in DFS because I think they're going to be trying to feed. I think they're going to be trying to feed him TDs.
Well, who else do they even have? It's Keenan Allen, Gates, terrible Melvin Gordon, and they signed Travis Benjamin was their free agent signing, and Malcolm Floyd finally retired.
Here's a nugget that I got from a Chargers beat writer. The other day I retweeted some positive news about Melvin Gordon, and immediately in my DM box, a Chargers beat writer hit me up and he goes, you know what? Based on what we've seen in camp, Melvin Gordon, hard to be too optimistic. And this guy's a really, really good beat writer. So, I mean, and beat writers are not 100% for sure, but this guy has never failed me in the past, and I think it's still going to be Woodhead's backfield.
Yeah, I just don't think Melvin Gordon is that good. Like, I think that he ran behind the GOAT offensive line, and he developed a bunch of bad habits because he has really good long speed, but he doesn't have great short area agility, and in NFL, the running lanes just aren't there.
And I also think there's a strong trust factor, with Woodhead and Phillip Rivers. Kind of like, I mean, we know that Janis can play, right? We know that he can play, but he could never get the trust of Aaron Rodgers,
right?
And so that was the obstacle that he could never overcome. And I think that Rivers trusts Danny Woodhead.
Totally.
And I mean, if just look at their red zone touches last year, Danny Woodhead had 30, Melvin Gordon had 13. Woodhead's going to catch the passes. He's going to be in there, near the goal line. I think he's a great fantasy pick once again. And I understand like Melvin Gordon falls to places in drafts where it seems like he could be really be a great ROI guy if he hits. But I think that I don't have a whole lot of optimism that he's going to hit. So I'm pretty much letting other people draft him.
I mean, he had 200 touches last year and didn't score. Like, I don't know. That's just. I take Amir Abdullah over him. I think Abdullah has a ceiling. I think. Like, I don't know. Is that crazy to be on him?
I think they're right about in the same range. The issue with Abdullah is kind of similar because we don't think he's going to get like red zone and short yardage goal line carries. They'll use Zenner or Ridley, and then he loses passing game work to Theo Riddick.
Yeah, I want Zenner to be a thing, so maybe I shouldn't be as in on Abdullah as I am.
So Zenner balled out last night too, by the way.
Yep.
He made some plays. He can play, man. I'm telling you.
He's the running back Janus.
But how is Abdullah going to score fantasy points? I mean, I just feel like he's going to have a lot of games where he has a good game in real life, like 13 carries for 80 yards, but that only gets you 8 fantasy points.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Where do you have DJ amongst your running backs?
Had Zeke in the number 1 spot for a while, but had to move DJ up to number 1, man.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I love it. It's that was my call. That's been my best NFL call ever was DJ.
And Langford was a damn good call too. I mean, I know that a lot of the community is down on him, and I mean, I get why. But that I can't believe you crushed those calls on Langford last year, like in horrible spots too, like at St. Louis.
He had like 35 DK points against the Rams.
How does that even happen?
He hit like both of the bonuses and scored a touchdown.
I don't understand how that happens.
'Cause volume, dude. And he's the only guy. They're not going to use Jordan Howard right away. There's just no way they use Jordan Howard right away, I don't think.
No, it looks like Jordan Howard's buried. And right now, I mean, he played behind Quiz Rogers and Kadeem Carey in the preseason opener. With Langford, Matt Forte missed 3 games last year. Jeremy Langford finished as the overall RB1. I think that was the game at St. Louis that you called. He finished as the overall RB4 in another one, and he finished as the overall RB20 in the third game. So that's a high floor, a high upside. I mean, I've started to draft him a little bit, and I don't love him like you do, and I've started to draft him a little bit because people are so down on him that he goes in the 7th round.
Like the fact that so the difference with him versus Abdullah and Gordon is that he's the favorite for receiving down work already.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. He has a high floor. I mean, he has like a 200 touch floor if he stays healthy. In a worst case scenario, he's going to get you 200 touches.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, he's like as bad as Melvin Gordon was last year, but it's still
right.
So like the thing is people took them drafting Jordan Howard as a sign, but honestly, smart NFL teams draft a running back every year because eventually one of those guys is going to be good.
Yeah, so let's talk with the chat a little bit. David Johnson among RBs, yeah, we addressed that. Where would you draft Sterling Shepard? I want to hear your take on Sterling Shepard, Davis.
So it's hard because I'm an OU fan, so I have a lot of positive, like, good memories with Sterling Shepard, and he is really good, and he's not my type. I don't necessarily like the water bugs or whatever, but he can play down the field, and I guess that's sort of the number one thing when you're looking to evaluate a guy who's not quite 6 feet tall is if they can't play down the field, it means that they need like Jarvis Landry level volume basically to be good, and that's not going to happen. But he has no competition for targets. Like ODB is going to get his, but you can't throw him every down. It's like Will Tye and Rashad Jennings and Paul Perkins and gun to my head, don't know if I can name the third wide receiver for the Giants.
I mean, it would be Victor Cruz, but he's like, he died long ago. He's
not going to play. He's not going to be ready.
Right. Yeah, and the 3 who was filling in for him, Jeremy Davis out of UConn, he just pulled his hamstring.
He wasn't even good in college, Jeremy Davis.
6th round pick last year. So yeah, I mean Shepard is just he's in a great spot. I agree. And one thing that showed up on his film was his ability to win contested catches for a little guy, and
Yeah.
he has a 41-inch vertical. I mean he can sky, dude. So um, I don't know. He's in a spot where he could catch like 75 balls pretty easily.
Yeah. No, I've taken him in the 8th round a couple times. Like I don't know. That feels pretty good.
He's a great pick in the 8th round. I wish I had more of them in MFL 10s. I was too cautious on them. Too cautious on rookie receivers in general. All right, so Andrew Luck ready for a bounce back year, even though they didn't really upgrade their O-line.
Well, if he stays healthy for 16 games, he might throw 700 passes. Seriously, like because they've spent all their capital on wide receivers, right? Like it's like Dorsett and I mean Hilton and Moncrief. Are you big on Creef?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so big, so long on Dante. Like 4th round every time. Like come preloaded with the Moncrief pick.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've started to just take him in the 3rd round just to get him. Make sure I don't lose him.
Yeah, because you're looking at like 120 targets and like probably 30-ish red zone targets, maybe something like that. No, that's probably high, like 25.
Yeah, I mean, every week he's gonna have like .80 chance to score a TD.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be real good.
Well, do you remember we were talking about like you thought that early in the season he had kind of passed Hilton as the wide receiver 1. I mean, that was a hot take, but it wasn't that crazy.
Well, he scored the first 4 games of the year.
Right. No, Andrew Luck started 7 games last season, and Dante Moncrief scored 5 touchdowns in Andrew Luck's 7 starts, and over that span, Moncrief only had 11 fewer targets than Hilton in those starts. So I mean, he's I mean, I would say entering the season, your projection for Moncrief shouldn't be very, very much different from your T.Y. Hilton projection. I mean, I think you can make a good argument for that. And, Hilton's a guy that I've seen like Sigmund Bloom will take him early 2nd round. He never gets out of the second round. And then Moncrief goes like 3-4 turn. So it could be potentially great value with Creef.
Well, Hilton you'll project for like 20 more catches, but probably like 5 more touchdowns for Moncrief.
All right, so what do we got here? In one keeper league, would you keep David Johnson over Peterson? Absolutely.
Yeah, they're sending Peterson to the glue farm this year.
They're going to phase him out for Asiata.
I mean, McKinnon, I will say McKinnon is like a 3-1 underdog to lead this team in running back snaps.
Wow.
Because Peterson can't play out of the shotgun, and McKinnon is better out of the shotgun. And like, I follow a couple Vikings fans, Arif Hassan and Darren Page,
yep.
And they've both just been railing on this all offseason. Like Teddy's numbers out of the shotgun are like 20% better, and Peterson out of the shotgun turns into Matt Asiata.
So, yeah, I'm gonna pull up some Bridgewater stats out of the shotgun. And these stats were actually first shown to me by Ryan Boser, who kind of runs in those Vikings circles with those guys that you just mentioned.
Vikings fans are sharp, dude. I think
they are sharp.
The more terrible your team is for longer, like the smarter you get about football because you're trying to understand why your team is so bad. The only fan base that is not true with is the Browns.
Bridgewater so far in his career out of the shotgun, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 68% completion rate. Under center, Bridgewater, 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 57% completions.
Yep.
So big gap there.
Yeah, I agree. Just got a question. What's the upside for the Jags offense this year? I mean, I really like the Jaguars offense. Well, the passing offense. The running backs are still bad.
Yeah, I think my take initially was going to be that to expect some regression from Bortles and company because their defense got so much better and they were not going to be in a lot of situations like they were last year, racking up points in fourth quarters. But I think this is a legitimately good offense, and I think that they will be able to almost score as will. They have a score at will. They have a great schedule. Um, Allen Robinson is a top 5 NFL receiver. Julius Thomas didn't even play for like 5 weeks last year. Even if you don't like him, like he scores touchdowns. Allen Hurns, quality number 2 receiver, and Blake Bortles, 3rd year. And I think when they get in the red zone, why would they not throw to Allen Robinson and Julius Thomas? Why would they not?
They threw 94 times in the red zone last year, and they ran 54 times. It was one of the most dramatic. They had the same amount of passing touchdowns in the red zone as the Cardinals did. I think they can do something similar, just because Allen Robinson is not going to regress. He's going to keep scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, he scored 19 touchdowns, or I'm sorry, he scored 11 touchdowns at Penn State as a 19-year-old true sophomore. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns every year of his NFL career, pretty much. And you can look at the stats sometimes and think, are the Jaguars primed for regression? Why are they throwing so much in the red zone?
Yeah.
Is this a stat that's going to regress, or is it just a function of their personnel? Because their personnel, they're touchdown scoring pass catchers.
Yeah, last year it was Toby Gerhart and T.J. Yeldon and Denard Robinson, which inspires no faith. And I guess Ivory's a pretty good goal line runner. He's fine in that role.
He was actually terrible in that role last year, but I mean, body type, he should be better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like how Legarrette Blount is the least efficient short yardage runner in ever, but people are just he's smash mouth.
Right. Of course, then he goes to the Patriots, and all of a sudden he actually is pretty good. Legarrette Blount, I think, is a guy who's interesting in fantasy.
That's how Patriots do.
Legarrette Blount has played 30 games for the Patriots, and he scored 23 touchdowns in those 30 games. And Belichick praised him for his conditioning recently, and there was some chatter that he might lose his roster spot recently, but I don't see that happening. I mean, unless Tyler Gaffney overtakes him.
Hey, he had the 48-yard touchdown in preseason on Friday. That gave me a glimmer of hope. That brought me into the green for a little bit on DK, and I was yeah. And then no one else did anything. Okay, so these are the 2 offenses everyone talks about. We just got a question about the Raiders offense, because everyone just connects Bortles and Carr. I think that the Jaguars are going to be much better on offense than the Raiders.
I do too. I mean, I think that the Raiders are a little bit overvalued, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that Amari Cooper is average, but
Amari Cooper.
But I think that this is going to be a quietly run-dominated team. If you look at how good their defense looks, if you look how good their offensive line looks right now, I mean, it could be the best offensive line in the AFC. If you look at the way that their coaching staff is put together, Jack Del Rio, their OC is Bill Musgrave, a power running proponent. I kind of like Latavius Davis. I don't know about you, man. Where are you at on Latavius? I'm going to pull up his early season schedule because I'm going to be on him in DFS early in the year. But where are you on him?
So, man, this is tough because I was a huge fan of his as a prospect, and I really liked him at the beginning of last year. Kind of feels like the coaching staff just doesn't like him. Kind of feels like they want Washington to play well enough to take the job from him. Is what is kind of the vibe that I get.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, but I think that vibe has kind of gone away. I do.
I mean, Washington played really late in the preseason game last night.
He did. He was in there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But I don't think so Adam Levitan noted that Derek Carr played 10 snaps in the preseason opener, and Latavius Murray was on the field for all 10, including all 3 third down opportunities. The beat writers have been saying that DeAndre Washington, while talented, really isn't making a move at all on Latavius, and they think that Latavius is going to have a big year. This is a guy who had 307 touches last year behind a not very good offensive line with a not good defense. Both of those things I fully expect to change. Look at their schedule early in the year, okay? First, they play at New Orleans, Latavius Murray. So that could
Easy.
be we could have some issues with game flow there, but that's a great matchup for
Right.
Latavius Murray. Week 2, Raiders come back home. They play the Falcons.
The Woats.
So
Legitimately one of the most talentless rosters in football.
so Latavius is going to be in a great spot. You know, you love to play running backs at home against teams that are inferior, and Latavius should be a chalky play in week 2, I think. In week 3, they play the Titans. In week 4, the Ravens. In week 5, at home against the Chargers. So that is a great way to kick off the season, I think, for really the entire Raiders offense, but to me, Latavius Murray in particular.
Yeah, no. It's so my issue is not with Murray's skill set. It's just that they also didn't like to use him on passing downs last year because they had Halou, but Halou is gone now, right?
Yes, they cut him.
Yeah. So there you go. I think that that might be a sign that they're at least willing to use him in that role a little bit because he was good at that role. He was a fine pass catcher. But
Um,
the thing that sucks is that Cooper is not a good red zone wide receiver, and so they don't really have one.
that's an issue, man. I mean, I see him go second round in a lot of drafts, and I mean, I think in
13
terms,
red zone targets last year.
yeah, actually, he didn't even have that many, dude.
Was
He
it? I
didn't.
just maybe it was he had
He had
9.
7. He had 7, and he had 0 inside the 10. 0. And shout out to the film watchers who have noticed this about Amari Cooper, that they didn't think he was great as a contested catch winner, which is kind of what you want from your
Wide
um,
receiver 1.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he only had a 33-inch vertical, which may explain that partially. That's a low vertical, man. That's like Ruben Randall territory. But I mean, that may sort of explain why they didn't envision him as a guy that they wanted to feed the rock to in tight quarters where everything's bunched up in the red zone. And Crabtree had almost twice as many red zone targets as Amari Cooper. Clive Walford, who was a part-time player, had as many. Seth Roberts, the slot receiver, had more red zone targets
Mm-hmm.
than Amari Cooper last year. So while I love Amari Cooper, and I mean, he's still, I'll still take him in the 3rd round for sure. And I own him in Dynasty. I think he's a little overrated when he goes in the 2nd round of season-long drafts. And I don't know if I'll be on him in DFS. I don't know,
You
man.
can't because the touchdown, like he's like Sammy. If he's gonna score, it's gonna come from 40 yards out, and those are just really hard to predict. Like you can't just predict 40-yard touchdowns.
That's an interesting comparison. Interesting.
I legitimately think they play a lot alike. Cooper's just a little bit stronger. Like you can I feel much more confident giving Cooper a screen pass than Watkins. Let's talk Watkins, dude. What are you doing with him?
Well, I mean, I mean, he has the injury issues, but it seems like the injury issue is not. I moved him up in my rankings to like a fringe 2nd, 3rd round pick. And that's aggressive, I think. Like a lot of people have him higher than that. But he's a guy who he has the injury concerns, and he also has major volume concerns.
Huge volume concerns.
Major volume concerns. So I don't know. I mean, he's going to have some big weeks. He's a great best ball pick, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, he usually goes before I want to take him. Usually.
Watkins had the same amount of targets per game to the decimal as Martellus Bennett last year. 7.3 targets a game.
Wow.
He's like, I totally get why people like him and why people project the growth, but the Bills aren't gonna throw enough. Like they're gonna run LaShawn McCoy and Jonathan Williams or Mike Gillislee like 30 times a game.
Yeah, so the one approach that I've taken actually to Sammy Watkins is, instead of taking him in the 2nd or early 3rd round, I'll just take Tyrod Taylor in the 13th round. And that'll be my exposure to Sammy Watkins. And I mean, I love Tyrod this year. He's essentially on, he's got the contract year narrative because that's really what his contract is. It's a 1-year deal where if he has a good season, he makes $27.5 million next year, so a lot to play for. I also liked how he showed that he was matchup proof last season. When him and Watkins are rolling, in the second half of the season, they had games against the Chiefs and the Texans. You remember this? Like, I remember writing in my article, like, there's no way that Tyrod's going to do anything this week. And he was like a top 5 fantasy quarterback in both of those weeks when the Texans and the Chiefs were like playing at elite level defensively. So I don't know. I love Tyrod this year.
You have to. You have to love him. Like, he's just I don't know. I think he's what would be the comparison? He would be like the Aldi version of like a Vic type quarterback or Cam Newton. Like, he runs well enough. He's very accurate on the short throws and is like, I don't know. He made some pretty good bucket throws to Watkins last year. The problem is their weapons outside of Watkins are all like bad.
Are an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, Robert Woods is their second guy.
One other thing I like about Tyrod is that I think he has some rushing touchdown positive regression coming, because he only scored 4 rushing touchdowns last year, and I think that 7, 8, 9 rushing TDs are within his range of outcomes.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree with that for sure. You know who I like as a late round quarterback? We just got a question about this. I still like Alex Smith.
Okay.
I still think he's like the best. If you're speaking about 3 to 6 rushing touchdowns, Alex Smith, like 4 rushing touchdowns, 350 rushing yards every year, adds like 3 extra points to your total every week. And weapons are not an issue for him. Macklin is good. Albert Wilson is good. Obviously, Charles is good. Kelsey's probably the second best tight end, like real football wise, that there is. And Chris Conley, like, they have a really great offense. I mean, Alex Smith is the limiting factor there. Also, I just realized I didn't cancel my contests on DraftKings for the preseason, my head-to-head, so I just got matched up with a bunch of matches I did not want. That was brutal.
Just donating, just out here donating.
Well, I have like a game versus like Empire Maker and some of these other guys who are good.
Oh,
yeah, that's not what I wanted.
Leviton told me that maybe I shouldn't repeat this. Okay, we'll just move forward.
We're good. It's a forward-thinking show.
Right. What we got? Any questions in here?
Yeah, we got one about Dion Lewis. Where are you at with him for seasonal?
We got to talk about Dion Lewis and Kelvin Benjamin.
Yes.
Dion Lewis, man, I've gone back and forth. on him. Tell me what you think.
Well, he's still a Patriots running back, and 100% they need someone in that role. The shitty thing was that they extended his contract the week before he got hurt. So, good for him. I'm glad that he got paid. He's super talented. I really like Dion Lewis. But the problem is we didn't really see, any sort of news this offseason with him practicing with the new contract, because it's basically just been he hasn't practiced yet. They don't have a role for him yet. And James White has been playing that role. And, James White is fine. Like, he's not a bad player at all. He can play the Falk role. He's just not so good that becomes a real great fantasy role. But Lewis is so good that it does become a really fantasy relevant role. So it's just a matter of if they make him sort of the lead dog or they do White, Lewis, Blount I don't know. If you don't want to draft Dion Lewis, that's what you're assuming, I would guess. Yeah,
and he's also a guy whose fantasy value is very much dependent on which scoring system you play in.
Yes.
If you play non-PPR, he gets downgraded like 2 rounds, but I could see being aggressive on him in a PPR league. Last year in the first 6 games, when they actually did use him as, I wouldn't say like a workhorse, but he was their feature back. And in PPR last year in the first 6 games, he was the overall RB5 to that point. And if you extrapolate his stats, he was on pace for like almost 11 touchdowns. But I don't know, that's going to be hard for him, I think, to duplicate. And the feeling among the beat writers, like Mike Reese, who's one of the best in the nation, is that they want to take him from a guy who last year played about 66% of their offensive snaps to a guy who this year will play like in the 40s, because they want to try to extend him and keep him in the lineup for 16 games. So
Right.
I don't know. He's tough, but the upside is undoubtedly there.
The other concern about him has to be he is almost completely reliant on his short area agility, and the specific knee injury that he got could just like kill that.
That would suck. If he comes back and he's not the same player, that would suck.
Yeah, that would not be brutal. All right, so now we got to talk about KB.
Yeah.
I'm in on KB. I think that Cam Newton is so good that it doesn't matter that Benjamin is kind of an inefficient wide receiver. I think he can just kind of fall into like 12 touchdowns.
That's the thing, is that he could score 1,000,000 touchdowns. JJ pointed him out, and I did too, as very early in the process, looking at where MFL 10 guys were getting drafted, and he's getting drafted ahead of guys like that are just going to get way more targets than him.
Yeah.
But because his targets are not going to be like they were in 2014.
No way.
But he can score a lot of touchdowns. I mean, he scored 15 touchdowns as a redshirt sophomore at Florida State. He scored, 10, 11, 12 as a rookie. He had more against Seattle in the playoff game.
And that was not the version of Cam that we saw last year. The version that we saw of Cam last year is like top 5 passer. Like not just top 5 quarterback, top 5 passer. Like he got better for sure.
Yeah, and Funchess was in the first preseason game, which again, grain of salt, but just something to worth noting. Funchess was not like he was not a full-time player with the ones. He lined up as the Panthers' X receiver in one wide receiver sets because they view him as their best blocking receiver. But in 2 receiver sets, I mean, it looks like it's Benjamin and Ginn at this moment. Now that can change for sure, but that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I can agree on that. I kind of like Funchess. Like I'm kind of a little bit partial to him, but I don't know. He always struck me as kind of like a redshirt player because his quarterback play at Michigan, I mean, these guys that they had him playing with, like he didn't even really get to play the position. Like he just never really got to learn. This is only his 3rd year ever playing wide receiver. He was a tight end always because he was so big. So
I like him too. It's just an issue of playing time, because that was his issue last year. I mean, he had a great rookie season on an efficiency basis. I mean, he averaged. He actually started the season. Like in the first 5 games, he had 6 drops and 6 catches. But from that point on, he averaged over 9 yards a target. He had like 5 touchdowns in the last 11 games, and that was with the Panthers using him as the 4th part of a rotation with fucking like Corey Brown and Jericho Cotchery and Ted Ginn. I mean, he played less than Cotchery and Ginn and Corey Brown. So, I mean, from an efficiency standpoint, he had a really, really promising rookie season. It's just will he all of a sudden become a full-time player? And I don't know, just based on the preseason opener, it looks like he might not.
Ted Ginn's like drop in the Super Bowl like haunts me. I mean, worst sports betting day of my life was the pain. I had it all. I had it all on Cam.
I hope you have good beats sometimes, Davis.
No, just all the bad beats, mate. All the bad beats.
All right, let's talk some Marvin Jones, Golden Tate.
Yeah, so the Lions may just end up being just a tire fire because if you look at Matt Stafford's career numbers throwing at everyone who is not Calvin Johnson, they are really bad. Like he turns into Sam Bradford when he's not throwing to Calvin Johnson. And not only will he not be throwing to Calvin Johnson, but the threat of Calvin Johnson is also not there. Like Marvin Jones against number 1 cornerbacks, that's not going to end well. I don't think, at least. I don't know. Do you like Marvin Jones?
I like him okay. I see. I really like Golden Tate, but I always liked Golden Tate more than you did.
Yeah, he's not a Davis Mattek player.
Right, right. So I don't know. I mean, you go back and look at his production when Calvin has been out or a decoy or just wasn't a big part of the offense. And I mean,
The targets will be there.
that's enticing for me. That's very, very enticing for me. Um,
Well, he is a little bit of a Davis Mattek player because of the wave he did going to the end zone against the Rams. That was pretty. That was like an alpha move when
oh
he
yeah,
when he
that was
when he
awesome.
scored the touchdown and taunted all the way there. That was pretty cool.
He has a history of doing these things. I remember at Notre Dame, he jumped into the Michigan State band.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So maybe I need to rethink my stance on
yeah,
Golden
you
Tate a
do.
little
Yeah, you
bit.
do.
He might be awesome.
All right, there were 7 games over the past 2 seasons where Megatron either didn't play, was used as a decoy, or was held to 1 catch or fewer. I mean, these are kind of cherry picked, so
Yeah, sure.
but but all right. So 9 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6 catches for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns, 8 catches for 116 yards, 7 for 134 and a touchdown, 7 for 44, 10 for 154, 1, and 7 for 151, 1. That's Golden Tate over the last 2 seasons, with Calvin either not playing, used as a decoy, or held to 1 catch or fewer. Like, that would include games like against New Orleans last year. Remember when everybody was on him in DFS, when everybody was on Megatron in DFS against New Orleans last year, and he couldn't run.
Yep. Oh
He
yeah.
couldn't run, and Golden Tate just took over. But that, I mean, maybe that's a product of just Megatron being out there and helping him. But the point is that I think that Golden Tate has a chance at a really big year, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All of that's fair. Do you have any other dudes you want to discuss? I don't want to put it all out there on the first show.
Oh, so right, no, definitely not. And let's make this our last thing that we talk about.
Yeah.
Will adding RG3 help Duke Johnson out in a PPR format? So this is actually a concern for me in PPR. If you look at running quarterbacks and the receiving game production of their running backs, rarely do you see a running back racking up a shit ton of catches with a
Right. Yeah.
running quarterback. I mean, you can go to Colin Kaepernick and Frank Gore. You can go to who opened his career as one of the best receiving backs in the league, but he never caught passes with Colin Kaepernick. You can go to Robert Griffin III, and I mean, Alfred Morris is stretching it because he can't catch it, period. If you go to like Tyrod Taylor, LaShawn McCoy had an okay receiving year, not great. Russell Wilson, his running backs have never caught a lot of passes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a function of the personnel. Sometimes it's just a function of the offense that just doesn't throw a lot. But that is one concern for me in with Duke Johnson. Like, will RG3, when he goes through his first 2 reads, and then his 3rd read is to dump it to Duke Johnson, or will he run? That's a concern.
Yeah. No, I have basically the same concern. I mean, we've seen this with the Carolina running backs the last couple of years. Like, these guys just get no catches basically because the court, like, why would you dump it off to Jonathan Stewart when you can just run for a first down?
Yeah, Jonathan Stewart had so many touches last year, but he only had 16 catches all season.
Yeah. So I that's a legitimate concern. I don't have any Duke Johnson at all. I just don't really buy him kind of as like a player, and I think that if I want to invest in that offense, I want the passing game.
Corey Coleman.
Corey Coleman. He's gonna, like, that dude was born to score touchdowns. That was what he was put on this earth to do.
He's fucking awesome.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna leave everyone with that. Thank you for joining Evan and I to talk some NFL football. Feels good. Feels good to be back, man. I'm already sweating Alex Smith being the WOT, so it's awesome. Like, watching Alex Smith when you have him in fantasy is just the worst.
Oh man. I can imagine. See, I don't fucking use him, so
No, because
I
you're
don't have to
like
deal with that.
he'll get you 18 points, but he absolutely gets it the hard way.
Yeah, right.
That's the only way. That's the only way to describe it. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Evan and I will be back next week.